Joining me now is Tad Devine, who is a political director for Bernie Sanders, right in the war room in his campaign and directing traffic. Tad, good to have you back with us.
Ed, great to be with you.
John Podesta's out there saying that there's been a course correction by your campaign and that Bernie is going negative. I want your response to that.
My response is that's absolutely not true. Bernie Sanders is a guy in his entire career has never run a negative ad attacking an opponent. And I don't see this as being the first campaign where he will. There are legitimate policy differences between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton on big issues like trade, like the environment and the Keystone Pipeline, like whether or not we should break up the big banks, like leadership on, equality in this society. I mean, Bernie Sanders has a long record of fighting for it. And these are legitimate differences. Bernie's been talking about these differences for months. I saw Bernie, for example, on Jake Tapper's show yesterday, and Jake raised some of this stuff as though perhaps this was a new element to the campaign. And I remember 2 or 3 months ago when Jake said, "Do you have differences with Hillary Clinton?" And Bernie said yes, and he enunciated those differences. Now, at that time, he had more differences with her because she was supporting the TPP and basically supporting the Keystone Pipeline. I would agree there maybe are fewer differences today than there were a couple of months ago, but nevertheless, these are real serious substance differences. This is not a negative campaign. This is going to be a campaign where we talk about real issues that people care about, and where there are differences, he'll be upfront about it.
It's pretty clear that the media has spent a lot of time on Hillary in recent days because of her testimony. We've been smothered, actually, by network coverage of Hillary's campaign. Big talk about her fundraising the day after the testimony. Is this a momentum issue for Bernie Sanders? How do you feel about the campaign right now?
Ed, I feel really good about the campaign. I mean, I think we've seen some polling in Iowa and New Hampshire where Hillary's gained some ground, but I attribute that to the, more than $5 million that they've spent on television in Iowa and New Hampshire. We were never going to spend as much money as she does, but we wanted to get to a point where we have as much money as she does. And we reached that point at the end of the last quarter. I mean, I think as of today, given the way we've spent money, which I think is very responsibly, and also the way the campaign has raised money, which is at a phenomenal and unprecedented rate. We actually have more cash on hand than they do. And that's going to put us in a position to compete with them, with media in the early states, with organization on the ground, beginning in Iowa and New Hampshire, the other early states, and then moving into the Super Tuesday states as well. So, I think we're in an excellent position right now to compete with her, and I think we're going to make real progress, particularly in those early states, once we move to a media phase of the campaign.
Well, what's the view of the first caucus state, the first primary state? If you lose those two and you still got money in the bank, you have to think whether you did the right thing or not. So, I mean, isn't this a moment to really pour the resources in and get those two victories, and hopefully they'll be a game changer?
Yes. Our strategy all along has been to begin this in Iowa and New Hampshire and not just try to compete there, but to win there. And, we have the resources. Now, I think in Iowa, I think we have over 70 paid staff now on the ground in Iowa. We have a large paid staff in New Hampshire. But we also have, in addition to, large paid staff presence, an incredible grassroots organization of volunteers that are coming out in both those states and really in states all across the country, people organizing themselves, being part of the campaign. So we're going to do everything we need to do to win. I mean, I personally didn't think we needed 6 months of television advertising in Iowa and New Hampshire. I think 3 months is going to be, enough of to let people get to know Bernie Sanders and to deliver his message. And I think we've had a success. I mean, they've probably spent between the placement of television, the production expenses, the millions they've spent on polling before they started their advertising campaign. I think they've spent over $7 million in an area where we've spent zero. So I think we gain an advantage when they spend a lot of money on something that we don't spend money on, and yet we're in a position to fully compete in that arena. So I'm very pleased about where we are today.
I think most Americans recognize that if Bernie Sanders was not in this fight, we wouldn't have gotten a position change from Hillary Clinton on trade, the TPP, or Keystone for that matter. Right. So given that, isn't the big issue Wall Street right now? Bernie has been on Wall Street since day one. The bailout of the banks, what they did was went out and bought more banks, and the big got bigger, and now they're not regulated. He wants Glass-Steagall reinstated. She's pretty coy on that. Isn't this the big issue, making America recognize the operation of Wall Street and how it's keeping the working folk down?
Yes, I think it is, Ed. I mean, I think the big issue today that Bernie Sanders is going to run his campaign on is that we have a rigged economy in America that is held in place by a corrupt system of campaign finance. Okay, that's what it's all about. And at the heart of that issue is Wall Street, which is funding campaigns through bundled contributions and through super PAC donations, and also the fact that Bernie Sanders' record on these issues goes way back for decades, whether it's standing up to the bailout, when it happened, whether it's trying to get Glass-Steagall back into effect, whether it's opposing Wall Street at every turn and every vote. Now, it's hard to oppose Wall Street when you rely on them to fund your campaign. Okay, yeah. I would argue that it's impossible. So, and listen, that's a legitimate fight, and Bernie is trying to redefine American politics today by saying we can go to the grassroots, we can ask people to contribute, we can compete with big money campaigns by raising small dollar contributions. No one has ever done that before the way he's doing it at an unprecedented scale, and I think people are going to respond to it in Iowa, New Hampshire, and elsewhere.
Tad Devine with us here from the Bernie Sanders campaign on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Looking ahead, it's pretty clear that the Congressman Paul Ryan from Wisconsin, chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, is going to be Speaker of the House. He'll be the 54th Speaker of the House. And if you follow Ryan's career, his budget, his priorities, I think we could predict that there's going to be a vote to get rid of minimum wage in the House. There's going to be an effort to privatize Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security and change the payout structure of Social Security. There'll be no support of infrastructure. There'll be an emphasis on defense spending. Isn't Paul Ryan a real opening for Bernie Sanders on the campaign trail? That if he's the House Speaker and I'm the president, we're going to have some real fights and I'm going to win these fights? I mean, doesn't Ryan help define Bernie Sanders even further with people that are still investigating who they want to support?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, listen, if they want to put that agenda on the table, and I'm sure, as you say, he will, that, what we need to do about the minimum wage is cut it, not raise it. What we need to do, the way we fix Social Security is by cutting benefits, not increasing them. If they want to talk about programs like Medicare and privatizing them, I would say we welcome that fight. And if Paul Ryan can put that on the table and make it a centerpiece of American politics, Bernie Sanders is going to engage on that because those are the issues at the heart of his campaign. That's what motivates him in political life. So, we welcome Ryan's entrance into this debate. Hopefully they will do that, and I know Bernie will fight him at every turn.
Okay, finally. No one cares about your damn emails. That, of course, was the big comment in the first debate. Was that a positive or a negative for Bernie Sanders now that the testimony of Hillary Clinton in front of the House Special Committee on Benghazi is now behind us?
Yeah, listen, I think it's a positive. I mean, Bernie has never wanted to make an issue out of something where, it's being investigated by the FBI, it's being investigated elsewhere, it's been part of, the Republicans turned it into a partisan issue. He was not going to do that. He let the investigations go on, let the chips fall where they may on that issue. What Bernie wants to talk about are the big issues of whether or not somebody's going to fix the rigged economy in America and whether or not somebody's going to take on a corrupt political system of campaign finance. That's the heart of his debate. So I think what he did, and certainly the way he did it, which is in his own unique style, was very powerful. And listen, remember, if we're going to win this election, a lot of the people who are going to vote for Bernie Sanders in February are people who support Hillary Clinton today. And we wanted to make it clear to them that the difference he has with her is not on something she did with some emails. The difference he has with her are on big issues that they care about. That's what we want the campaign to be about.
Tad Devine, always a pleasure. Great to have you with us. Keep up the fight, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ed.
Tad Devine with Bernie Sanders' campaign, and we will visit again.